Hi, friends. If you want to understand how the Republican Party went from being a valuable element of the American body politic that elected presidents like Teddy Roosevelt to the un-American and hateful MAGA crap that we have today, come along. The story starts in the 1930s when the German mustache man, who was rising to power in Germany at that time, sent propaganda peddlers to America. And that's a verifiable fact. You see, he knew that he planned to conquer Europe, but he also knew he couldn't fight the entire world at once. So, he sent those propaganda peddlers to the United States to found an isolationist movement which came to be called America First. This movement found success by targeting the anti-intellectuals and uneducated of that time, but something the mustache man didn't quite account for was the sheer size of our country and the sheer number of our population, even at that time. So, the message of the America First movement did take hold to a degree, and it was this movement that kept us out of World War II for so long, far longer than most today would agree with. However, it is also a verified fact that literally within days of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, the America First coalition disbanded, and the propaganda peddlers fled. Now, even though that movement had some support, remember just how strongly liberal our country was at that time. For example, FDR, one of the most progressive and liberal presidents we've ever had, was elected 4 times, including during wartime. The damage had been done, though, because the Nazi sympathizers among us now felt emboldened to spout their message of isolationism throughout the land. Through the 1940s and 50s, this message took hold in the Republican Party as they desired a place to infiltrate the liberal nature of true America from. This movement led to a broad coalition within Congress that instituted the first of the, quote, rules for thee but not for me measures that became the standard of the Republican Party, which was term limits for the presidency but not for Congress. This growing coalition of conservatives in Congress opened the doors in the 60s and 70s for the founding of Fox News. It is a well-known fact today that the founders of Fox News did not desire a news agency. They desired a platform from which they could shout their extremist and radical conservative propaganda. However, they knew that to sell this platform, they had to wrap it in something that appeared to be a news agency. But the liberal nature of America continued, exemplified in that time by the Civil Rights Act, the end of Jim Crow, the desegregation of schools, and so forth. A turning point for the Republican Party occurred, though, when Nixon committed the most heinous act of corruption in all of American politics, the Watergate incident. This truly should have been the death of the Republican Party. But there was this real bastard of a human being in Nixon's administration by the name of Lee Atwater that saw a path forward for the party. He created a set of racist propaganda which came to be known as the racist dog whistles to appeal to white Americans who were struggling with the adjustment of desegregation and civil rights. It is during that time that we see a huge shift in the Republican Party, because most of the educated and intellectual members of the party left over their dissatisfaction with Nixon's corruption, and uneducated and anti-intellectuals were called to the party by those racist dog whistles. In the 80s, we see the rise of the so-called Christian right, which history now knows was founded not by Christians at all, but by racist un-Americans who wrapped their message of hate in the sheep's clothing of Jesus Christ. Also in the 80s, we see Reagan repeal the Fairness Doctrine. Prior to this, news agencies could not knowingly broadcast lies. But with its repeal, the lies of Fox News were fully unleashed. This also gave rise in the 90s to hate radio and the continued expansion of the cable news networks and the Fox News conservative propaganda platform. Into the 2000s, when the Tea Party became prominent, the Tea Party demonstrated a major shift in Republican methodology. They were now willing to use wholly un-American approaches to politics to strong-arm their fellow party members into supporting their extremist agenda. Now, there were a few bastions of true republicanism in the party that remained, in people like John McCain, but when he lost the election to Obama and showed grace and honor in his defeat, it only emboldened the growing core of hateful, racist un-Americans within the Republican Party, which finally gave rise to the totalitarianism and extremism of MAGA. Now, my friends, if you're still listening at this point, thank you, but here is what we must do. Vote. We must continue to defeat totalitarianism. We must continue to defeat racism. We must continue to defeat the un-Americans. And the place that we do that is at the ballot box. Stay woke, Americans.